Welcome back to the What Do They Know podcast. We are halfway through the football season, and the guys will recap some of their good preseason predictions and some other predictions that they'd like to take back. They'll go over some good performances from the Falcons and the Chargers and discuss who they think will wind up winning the tight race for the NFC West. But hey, what do they know?
What do they know? We are about to find out. Welcome back, everybody, to the Week 9 edition of the What Do They Know podcast.
Yep.
Nick and Jeff back with you as always. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing all right. No sports gear whatsoever, so that's where I'm at. I'm escaped from the sports world right now. I'm completely within my own reality.
Yeah, that's just a miserable place. Miserable place to be.
There's nothing to look forward to anymore.
I told Christy that the other day. I was like, I'm quickly approaching. It was before the Yankees officially lost the World Series, which I'll get into in a minute.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm quickly approaching a place of sports depression.
Yeah.
With the Yankees and with the Jets, even though it's still football season. And I was like, she's like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. And I'm like, but I look forward to this like every day, whether it's a Yankee game on a Tuesday,
right,
or whether it's a Jets game on a Sunday. Like if they suck or if they're eliminated, like, it's just one less thing I have to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps us grounded. I feel like that's why I love baseball so much, is because it's such an everyday occurrence. It's something you can look forward to every single day after work or wherever you are. Football, obviously, it hypes it up until Sunday, and then for me personally, you're just let down anyway. So, but it is that time of year where you have to start looking for other hobbies and other things to occupy your mind and time.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm battling through. I lost my voice.
Yeah.
This week, as you guys will probably be able to tell as you're listening. So I did end up going to Game 5 of the World Series on Wednesday.
Heartbreaker.
Which was literally the best of times and the worst of times.
Right.
Not obviously going to get into the game. It didn't go the way we wanted to. The first 4 innings were probably the most fun I've ever had at any sporting event.
Right.
Which is why my voice sounds like this, because I was yelling as loud as I could for 4 innings and clapping so hard my hands hurt. But now I have no voice, or it's getting better. This is way better than it was like on Thursday.
The Game 5 was on Wednesday, so it's already been like 5 days since this.
It was gone.
Yeah,
it was, like I walked in the door and Christy hadn't really talked to me. It was just the next morning, and I started talking. She's like, "What happened to your voice?" I was like, "It's gone. It's not there." But yeah, it was no regrets.
Right, you left it all on the field.
No regrets. Had a blast. Clapped as loud as I could, yelled as loud as I could. When Judge hit the homer in the first, we went bananas.
Right.
But
hey, you did what you did.
Yep. And then, so I had a good sports week. I mean, even though obviously the Yankees lost, Jets pulled out a W on Thursday. Well, whatever. That doesn't matter anymore.
That cost you a game in our little rankings thing. Yep.
But then I got to go to the Bills game today.
Yeah.
Which was a little bit unplanned, kind of last minute.
Mm-hmm.
My father-in-law wanted to take us all to a Bills game, even though obviously, Christy's a closet Bills fan. She won't admit it, but
she thinks she's a closet Bills fan.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty
Bills
apparent,
fan, but she's just a Bills fan. And obviously, I didn't have a rooting interest in the game, but we got to go and we did some early tailgating. Got us phenomenal seats, 50-yard line, like 40 rows back.
Mm-hmm.
So it was awesome. Bills Dolphins. It ended up being a really, really good game.
Right.
So that was a ton of fun. So it was a pretty decent sports week. Lots of fun.
Yeah. More highs than lows, I feel like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll jump into it.
Okay.
So what do you got for us this week?
All right. I'll start us off with top stories. Right now, I got the Chargers over there being a little sneaky over there in the AFC West.
Sneaky.
Yeah. So obviously, this show is not unprepared for my love for Justin Herbert. I feel like everyone knows my love for Justin Herbert is very open out there in the air. But yeah, I feel like the rest of the team is finally gelling together and stepping up to the level that Justin Herbert has kind of been playing at all year. The defense is definitely been there. It's been a little shaky. It was a little shaky to the beginning of the year, but I feel like they've been pretty consistent, especially of late. Obviously, they went big thanks to that defense against the Browns, holding Jameis Winston and the rest of that Cleveland offense that was kind of coming off a high against the Baltimore Ravens last week. They held them in check basically all game. So
Jameis was doing Jameis things, throwing picks all over the place.
Yeah, and I think he had 3 interceptions at least, the game. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the biggest question mark for the Chargers was the receiving core. They didn't really have anyone experienced or anyone, I guess, reliable. But Quentin Johnston is starting to take that role as a second-year pro now. He had 4 receptions today for 118 yards and a touchdown. So that's a big step up in their passing game. Lad McConkey.
I was gonna say he's turned it on nowhere.
Yeah, he's turned it on the past couple weeks, 3 weeks. He had 5 receptions for 64 yards. That's Mr. Reliable right now, right there, developing. And then they have DJ Chark, who was designated for return from the IR. That'll be a welcoming addition. And Joshua Palmer is still there. He had a touchdown today, even with only 2 grabs. I mean, as long as he remains a threat in the red zone, that's all of a sudden becoming somewhat of a formidable passing attack right there. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins is kind of taking the lead role there in the running back position. Yep. Gus Edwards got injured pretty early in the year, and J.K. Dobbins is kind of taking over there. But yeah, it's starting to become a team that isn't going to be pushed around, isn't going to really be an easy W when you look at the schedule. So that's definitely going to be a fun team to look at down the line.
Yeah, and I feel like with the pass game, they just need to be able to have the threat of the pass.
Yeah.
Right? Their run game is so dominant. Like, they just need to be able to prevent teams from just stacking the box to prevent the run because they know there's no threat of pass. And it's not that Justin Herbert isn't a competent quarterback. He's more than that, right? But it's the appearance of lack of weapons. And I feel like the guys that you just mentioned are really kind of taking care of that.
Yeah.
To where they're at least somewhat of a balanced team. They're obviously, there's no way around it. They are primarily a run heavy team, but they have at least enough of a threat of a pass to kind of balance things out.
Yeah, with Jim Harbaugh, they're definitely more of a run team right now. But I look back in 3 weeks ago where Justin Herbert threw the ball around, and I feel like they had 5 to 10 drops. And their wide receivers, I think their leading receiver was Will Dissly, their tight end.
Yikes!
And that's when you knew their passing game was in disarray. When Will Dissly is your leading receiver, I feel like I hadn't heard of Will Dissly since his time in Seattle, so that's been a while. But for right now, their receiving core is definitely getting a lot healthier. I heard or at least read that they're looking to add during the trade deadline for wide receiver help. So we'll see if they pull any triggers there. But overall, I feel like the Chargers are definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, they surprised me today. Browns were my upset pick this week. Obviously, coming off a big win. So,
I wouldn't blame you on that one. Yeah.
They have a tough division. That the two out of the 3 teams that they have to play in their division with the Broncos and the Chiefs.
Right.
Those are going to be some really tough games, and I don't think they've played. I think they played the Broncos once, so they still got 3 games combined against those 2 teams.
Right.
So those will be really tough ones. But I feel like the rest of their schedule, without looking at it, there's not a ton of teams where, off the top of my head, I'd say the Chargers have no shot.
Right. Right. Yeah, this is going to be definitely a team that's going to be in it in every single game. Ooh, that is some trickeration by Minnesota.
A double pass.
Yeah, double pass. So hey, good chunkage. But yeah,
we'll see. I get passing points for that for Justin Jefferson.
Did he pass it forward?
I think so.
If it was a forward passing, yes. If it's a backward, then it's a rushing attempt by whoever just took it.
All right, so that was definitely backwards.
That was backwards. It just depends if that was forward.
That was backwards, I think.
If that was backwards, then it's a rushing attempt.
That's a rushing attempt. All right.
Well, yeah. So moving on to my other top story, and it's a team that we kind of stay away from because the rest of the media kind of covers them at length. But I feel like we need to at least discuss them halfway through the year, and that's the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay.
I feel like that they actually have a huge fanhood over here in the Western New York area, behind the Buffalo Bills. It's kind of staggering to me.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like this does fit for the area as well. Obviously they lost today. Dak Prescott left the game a little early.
Third quarter, I think, right?
Yeah. due to a hamstring injury. It's hard to say wrap it up at 3-5, but it's kind of looking that way for Dallas. Their defense just hasn't rallied around Mike Zimmer the way you wanted it to. Obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons were out of this game, so that was a big blow to that defense. But overall, even when they have been in there, they haven't been, I guess, the same chaos makers that we've grown to seeing them be. That defense has kind of been a bit of a letdown this year. And then offensively, CeeDee Lamb is kind of carried that team.
Yeah,
they don't really have much of a running game to speak of, to my knowledge. And Dak Prescott, I mean, he's doing all he could, but it's they just don't have enough weapons. I feel like offensively to like really make a decent, heartfelt playoff push.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Zeke was a healthy scratch today.
Yeah,
he was inactive. They said it was for some disciplinary reason. So who knows what that is? But I mean, in reality, he could have been a healthy scratch for performance too, because he's not doing a dang thing.
Right.
Which just makes we talked about it already, but the fact that they didn't go after Derrick Henry in the offseason just makes them look so much worse now.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like they're in a really, really bad spot.
Yeah.
They don't have any, we just talked about balance with the Chargers. They don't have any balance in terms of a number 2 wide receiver to balance out CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you who their number 2 receiver is.
No, it's it's him and Jake Ferguson. They're tight end. That's really it.
Yeah.
And if you contain one of those two guys, you're in pretty decent shape. So I think to your point, the defense is injured. They're playing down. I think also we maybe didn't give Dan Quinn enough credit to what he did for that defense. Obviously now being with Washington, you look at what Washington's doing, and what Dallas's defense looks like now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know how you can't say that Dan Quinn had a tremendous impact on that defense.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Washington, like I said, ever since that Cincinnati game where they didn't force them to punt, they turned on the Jets over there in Washington. So yeah, Dan Quinn deserves, I guess, a lot more credit than what we ever talked about, discussed, or anticipated. But yeah, as of right now, Cowboys are giving up the 31st most points allowed, 26th in total defense. It's just not looking good for Mike Zimmer in year one of that defense. No. So from here on out, I feel like they're kind of in the same position as like the Saints, but except more talented.
They're way more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Where you have all these, I guess, older players and bigger contracts. I think it's starting to look like you should sell off some pieces and gather some draft capital for your future years.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, but that's where I got.
Dallas reached out. They chose Mike Zimmer over Rex Ryan.
Didn't Rex Ryan
he interviewed for it. It was between them two, and they went with Mike Zimmer. It's not looking so good now.
Yeah, I think he was like on air when he was like they didn't pay him. They didn't want to pay him enough money or something.
And he's the first tomorrow on like Get Up on ESPN.
Yeah.
He'll be the first to criticize that defense.
Yeah,
because he thinks he can do the best.
Yeah.
Side note, we can get into this in a later episode. I am officially on the Jets to hire Rex Ryan bandwagon.
Really? For head coach?
100%.
For head coach?
100%.
Round 2?
100%.
Oh,
Give me Rex Ryan and that foot-loving dude.
I didn't talk to your father about this one.
Yeah, you should. I haven't talked to him about it.
You haven't talked to him?
I haven't talked to him about it. He's just what they need. I've just decided.
Yeah, he brings a lot of character, a lot of attitude, a lot of like you're not going to bully me to the ground type of attitude, and that's definitely something I feel like Aaron Rodgers personally needs. And and that team in general. So I can see it. I'm just not sure how it'll match, to be honest with you.
He was on ESPN New York this week, and they said all they said was, would you entertain an interview?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'd take the job in a second.
for head coach?
For head coach. He goes, because I am a New York Jet. I know what it is, blah, blah, blah. Typical Rex Ryan stuff.
Right.
But like, they didn't even ask him, like, would you take it? He's like, would you interview for it? And he goes, oh, I want it. He flat out said, like, I want it. He goes, I hope I'm allowed to interview for it. So
right.
We'll see what happens. I think
crazy.
I want either him or Mike Vrabel, but we'll get into that at a later time.
All right, that's crazy. Okay.
All right. So first top story for me is the team that beat Dallas today.
Okay.
The Atlanta Falcons. So after week 1 with Atlanta, I kind of was like, holy crap, like what did Kirk Cousins do? What did we do as picking them to win the NFC South?
Right. Talking about an overreaction.
Yeah, seriously. But I think they've figured it out, right? So big win today, 27-21 over Dallas. They're 6-3. If Tampa Bay loses to Kansas City tomorrow, which obviously is a very realistic outcome, they'll have a 2-game lead in the division after, essentially being halfway through the season. So that's a pretty good little cushion. And you just look at the performances the last couple weeks. Kirk seems to be figuring it out. 7 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Him and Darnell Mooney seem to have a real connection.
Right.
I think that, side note, fantasy perspective, I think that's going to go through the roof next week if Drake London misses any extended amount of time. I think that you should trade for Darnell Mooney, or he should be your wide receiver number 1 because I think that he's gonna blow up.
Yeah.
I finally need to start starting the freaking dude because he's been riding my bench. Anyways, next 3 games for Atlanta are very doable. No offense, Jeff. At the Saints, at Denver, and then home to the Chargers.
Okay.
So those are, I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
One's a division opponent, and then the other one's from the AFC West. I mean, they are tough games.
They are tough games.
They can be tough games, but Atlanta definitely has the talent-wise perspective of being a little bit over those 3 teams.
And then a couple weeks down the road, they have the Giants and the Raiders.
Oh,
so I feel like the schedule shapes up nicely for Atlanta, and they're in a really good spot. Again, halfway through the season, a really good spot to position themselves for a division win and a home playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about when we were making our predictions. Atlanta is far and away the class of the NFC South, and obviously after week 1, like you discussed, we had a little bit of doubt.
They looked really bad.
Yeah,
it wasn't just like, okay, like they got some things to figure out.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins looked like he couldn't move.
Yeah. It's definitely a little rough. And then I think we were definitely, to add on to it, we were definitely astonished by how well Baker Mayfield and that Tampa Bay offense looked. But obviously with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin kind of down and out for a little while. Chris Godwin for the rest of the year, but Atlanta definitely has a chokehold on that division now. I think it's pretty smooth sailing now for them. But yeah, that for me, it's just about tinkering and getting ready for the playoffs. If I'm at Atlanta, like I know
stay
I'm
healthy.
Yeah, just stay healthy.
Just keep Kirk on his feet.
Yep. Don't worry about if you lose a game here or there. I honestly don't think it's going to make a difference. To be honest with you, I think you're going to win that division even with 11 wins.
Yeah, I think the one thing they really need to figure out is Bijan.
Yeah.
He's just projected to have an unbelievable year, and he's just been meh. His usage has definitely been very inconsistent, and I'm not sure how the game plan throughout the week there in Atlanta. I'm not sure if they're looking at certain matchups with the receivers because their receivers are talented. Obviously, Drake London and now Darnell Mooney is stepping into what a great trade now, by the way.
Yeah,
Darnell Mooney.
Yep. With Chicago, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have Kyle Pitts there at your tight end position. Yeah, you have a flux of weapons that can't be ignored. So, and obviously Bijan's kind of taking a step aside because it's Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins can fling the ball. Like that's what they paid him the big bucks to do. So honestly, I feel like if they never signed Kirk Cousins and they rolled out Michael Penix Jr.,
they'd still be in a good spot.
They'd still be in a good spot. But I feel like the offense would be more rolled towards Bijan rather than the passing game. So I feel like Bijan kind of took a hit after Kirk Cousins. So to me, I feel like there's going to be games where Bijan's going to be the main focal point, but because it's Kirk Cousins and what he's getting paid and what he knows how to orchestrate an offense, I feel like it's definitely going to lean more towards the passing game. But yeah, Atlanta right now is in the driver's seat, and I don't think they have much to worry about there in that division.
I agree.
Yep.
All right. So my second top story is just the quickly evolving NFC West.
NFC West.
I feel like I'm quickly becoming entertained by this division.
Yeah.
Obviously, you and I have a special place in our hearts for the NFC West, being from Phoenix, being Arizona Cardinal fans. But it's getting interesting.
Right.
It's getting really interesting. So as of right now, where we sit, Cardinals 5-4, leading the division, had a nice, really easy win over Chicago. I thought that was going to kind of be a fight today.
Yeah.
But Chicago, I mean, maybe they're still trying to recover from that Hail Mary.
Yeah, possibly.
But they gave no fight today whatsoever. I think it was like 29-9.
29-9.
So Cards won that game really easily.
Mm-hmm.
LA, the Rams are 4-4, had a quite thrilling overtime win against Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And then San Francisco's 4-4, they're on bye, so those
Yep.
two teams are tied for second. And then obviously Seattle, who we just talked about, 4-5, losing to the Rams. So really, realistically, any one of these teams, even Seattle, has to feel like they're right there.
Mm-hmm.
They're right in it. What team, out of those four, where are you leaning?
You're gonna put me on the spot on that one, because honestly, I think when I saw the score of when the Rams scored that winning touchdown, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen with this division. Yeah. I have no clue. Honestly, you can make a case for any of these teams. Obviously, San Francisco has been a powerhouse in the NFC for a handful of years now. But as we talked about during the preseason, we were anticipating a step back and a huge step back, and we felt like the rest of that division was going to creep up on them. I didn't think it was going to be this much this early, but it's definitely been something to see. Cardinals, I thought they were still maybe a year away, but I thought they were going to make some noise, and obviously they have been.
They play so hard, man, every game.
Yeah. So Jonathan Gannon, man.
Kudos to him.
Yeah, I just can't say enough of how he rallied that team after Cliff Kingsbury took off there or got fired from Arizona. So to kind of have that team under wraps and Kyler Murray a little bit more controlled, I guess that's definitely a huge credit and better than the cap to Gannon. Honestly, if I go with my heart, obviously it's going to be Arizona. Yeah. But with my mind, I feel like the Rams kind of have the pedigree, and they've done, like we talked about last week, they were 3-6 and they still made the playoffs and won a playoff game.
Yeah.
I think Matthew Stafford just has the dog factor inside of him, where you can carry a team like that and definitely challenge for the NFC West division title there. I'm leaning Rams.
Yeah, it's really hard for me not to envision a scenario where San Francisco gets healthy, the Rams stay hot, and it's those two teams who end up sneaking in. One is a division, one is a wild card, and the Cardinals are on the outside looking in.
Yeah,
I would hate to see that.
Yeah,
but I
had the same conundrum when we were doing our preseason playoff rankings, and I wanted to put the Cardinals in there. I just didn't know how.
Yeah.
All
right. So we are going to shake it up this week, I should say. We're about halfway through the season. Obviously, week 9 wrapping up tonight and tomorrow. So we're going to do a little bit of a mid-year review on some of our takes, some of our hot takes or predictions from our preseason breakdowns.
Right.
Opportunity. I mean, the show, after all, is called "What Do They Know?"
Yeah.
So we're already telling you we don't know much about much.
Right.
But we're just going to go over it and have a few laughs.
Yeah. I mean, rights and wrongs. Bad takes, good takes.
Yep.
For me, I'll start off with my rights. It starts with my NFC playoff teams. I feel like all these teams are in the picture. I'll review it right now. I had the number 1 seed being the Lions, and that's looking pretty good right now.
Okay.
They have like 1 loss. Falcons were my number 2 seed.
Yep.
The Eagles were my number 3 seed, and they only have 2 losses. I think they're 6-2 now. San Francisco was my number 4 seed. So I thought they were going to be the worst of the division winners, and I mean they're 4-4 now, so it's looking pretty possible.
Could still happen, yeah.
Number 5, the Packers. They're 6-3 now. That's pretty doable. 6, the Rams, like we talked about. Yeah. That's pretty doable. And then 7, the Cowboys. That's probably my. I mean, if they were more, I guess, coherent of a football team, that would probably be looking a little bit better. But honestly, that was where I was looking to put the Cardinals at that 7th seed. So honestly, my NFC side solid. Of the bracket is, I'm pretty proud of that.
It could happen literally that same
it's
in
pretty,
that order.
It's pretty crazy.
That's pretty good.
So that's where I am with that. As for my second right, Tarek McLaurin, I had him as a sleeper.
Yep.
When we were doing our NFC East breakdown. Obviously him and Jaden Daniels, they definitely formed a connection there. Yep. I think he had 2 TDs today.
I believe so,
in the first half. So that was pretty incredible. We talked about Terry McLaurin all the time in the show and how happy we are that he finally has someone competent to throw him the football, because it's definitely showing how superb of a wide receiver he is. So for me, getting him as a sleeper and putting him there, I was very, very happy about that. Number 3, my must have running backs. I had Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley as my must-have running backs.
I'd say you ace
Barkley was going around like 10th pick in the first round, and then Derrick Henry probably somewhere in the second round, maybe even in the third round. But obviously, we talked about the tread in Derrick Henry's tires, but that has not slowed him down over in Baltimore. They've been using him to, I guess, the most effective way possible. But yeah, those two guys have definitely been the clear-cut top 2, or at least 2 of the top 5 running backs in this fantasy year. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is still up there. And then James Cook, he hasn't had a too shabby of a year. Though I have 3. I have Barkley, Cook, and Alvin Kamara in my NFL league. Not to brag or anything.
But trade me one of them?
I do not want to trade you any of them. Okay. But yeah, those guys have been pretty good, pretty spot on. And then number 4, I put my hatred for Dennis Allen. I was pretty right about that.
Bingo.
So going into this year, obviously even last year, I wanted Dennis Allen fired. And then going into this year, I was pretty hesitant about the whole thing. But they started off 2-0. I was like, maybe the entire team, maybe the coaching staff, maybe Dennis Allen himself turned a corner. Nope. 7 losses in a row. 7 losses in a row later. Nope.
That's funny.
Yeah, I got pushed back down to reality. So that's where I am for my rights.
Okay, I want to make fun of you. So what did you get wrong?
This is why I saved this for last. So wrongs, I got number 1, AFC playoff teams. So basically the exact opposite of what I got right. So let's take a look at my AFC bracket.
Okay.
So I got KC as number 1. Not bad. I had the Jets as my number 2 seed. So
what an idiot.
What an idiot. I had the Browns as my number 3. Definitely did not. I was definitely not cooking on that one. Houston as my number 4 seed. So they were my worst division winner. Baltimore as my highest wild card. And then Miami as my 6th seed. Obviously, they're 2 and 7 now.
Yeah,
2 and 6,
I believe.
Yeah. And then Cincy is my 7th seed. So that's not looking projectable right now.
Okay.
So I can only get one half of the bracket wrong.
Yeah.
Right and wrong. And
Cleveland and then the Jets. That's
the
bad.
Cleveland. Yeah, that definitely set me back a little bit.
That's bad. Yeah.
I mean, to my defense, Cleveland was coming in a little hot from last year. I had full faith in Mike Jim Schwartz there to keep it up defensively. It's just I did not project Deshaun Watson to be as bad as he is.
No, but I don't really feel like anybody did.
Right. Yeah, and to mellow it in like that, yeah, that was rough. And then as for the Jets, no offense to you,
they suck,
my good sir, but it's been sloppy. It's been a disarray since I guess week 1. So, but yeah, that's my number 1 wrong there. Number 2, the Steelers in general. I feel like I'm always wrong about them because Mike Tomlin is just he starts off 8-0. He's guaranteed a winning season every year. Yeah. So he's got 8 wins in his pocket to begin the year every single time. But obviously Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, we didn't know what was going to happen there. I feel like Russell Wilson should be mentioned on this because I feel like we both got that wrong on that one.
Yeah.
Justin Fields, I still feel like Justin Fields has the, I guess, long-term future prospect on his side. But in terms of this team this year, right now, I'm starting to come around to the thought of Russell Wilson being the better fit for that team this year.
Agreed.
Number 3, I got the Vikings. Obviously, I didn't think the Vikings were going to be
I wrote them down as well.
Ooh, nice. Yep, the Vikings. I didn't anticipate them being this good this early or this quick with Sam Darnold there in the quarterback. Obviously, I think Sam Darnold had a one year deal.
Yep.
So honestly, it looked like just a bridge. I mean, they signed the problem to be the backup behind JJ McCarthy, to be honest with you. So I just didn't anticipate the Vikings to be this good. And then number 4, CJ Stroud. I thought he was going to take over like the number 1 position in QB fantasy rankings. I thought he was going to take off with all those weapons around him, a competent running game in Joe Mixon, so he could pass the ball, bring the box in, throw the ball around however he wanted. But for whatever reason, that offense just has not clicked at all this year. So now that was my 4th wrong.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
That I wanted to mention.
Okay.
I don't want to mention
there's more.
There's more.
We both have way more than 4.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. All right. So my turn. So the number one thing I feel like I got right so far is I told everybody to stay away from Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, you did.
He was my stay away in the first episode of our NFC West breakdown for fantasy football. I said that dude had too good of a year. He was too healthy. His history shows that he cannot stay healthy. You need to stay away from him. And he hasn't played a single snap. So I feel really good about that. That's probably the best one I got right.
Yeah, you're probably the only one I've ever heard that and said, hey, do not draft this guy.
Yeah. You couldn't have, even if I had the number one pick, I would not have drafted him.
Yeah. I was on boat with you. I'm wary about running backs who aren't healthy, who've shown they're pretty inconsistent with health. So I wouldn't have wanted to draft him anyway, but if he fell like to number 5, I might have been tempted.
Yeah.
If he fell down that far.
Yeah.
But thankfully he didn't. Thankfully.
Number 2, I wrote the Cardinals. This kind of applies to both of us.
Right.
We both said how we thought they were going to get the over of the 6.5 wins they were projected. How, I said that pretty much all of their games are 1-score games, tough games. They have they're a fringe playoff team. We already talked about them on this episode. They're right there.
Yep.
And then, it's kind of same in boat with that. I wrote the Commanders. I had them finishing above the Cowboys, had them finishing in second place in the division, which actually looks like I was doing them a disservice by saying that, because right now they're sitting in first place at 7-2.
Right.
But I had a sneaking suspicion that they were going to be this year's like worst to first or at least close to that.
Right.
So I feel like I at least so far got them right. And then the last one, another fantasy perspective, I wrote my must-have was Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
And the dude's been a beast for Houston. We've talked about on this show, like what Houston looked like when he was injured,
right,
and what they've looked like when he's come back.
Yeah.
And the numbers he's putting up, especially from a fantasy perspective, are phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, Joe Mixon hasn't missed a beat, even with CJ Stroud kind of struggling there at the QB position. Joe Mixon's still doing his thing.
Yep. Three games in a row, the touchdown, over 100 yards rushing, I think 3 games in a row. So the dude's just on fire.
Yeah, that's 16 points automatically.
Yeah. Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. All right. So things I got wrong. I was so wrong about the Bills.
Oh, same. Yep,
wrong about the Bills.
Yep.
They're sitting at 7-2. I had them not even making the playoffs. I just didn't have the answer to what the offense was going to look like.
Yeah.
How they were going to succeed. I couldn't see a formula in my head to them continuing to be an explosive offense with losing Gabe Davis, with losing Stephon Diggs. Like, it didn't compute to me.
Yeah, their defense too lost a lot of pieces.
Yeah, lot of pieces.
So I agree with you. I was wrong about them too.
So I got them dead wrong. Gosh, these guys cannot kick in this game tonight. It's 2 missed field goals in a row.
Yep.
Bills, I got dead wrong. The Jags, I got dead wrong. I picked the Jags to finish in first in the AFC South.
Did you really?
Ahead of Houston, and they are a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence looks like he's approaching bust category.
Oof, yeah.
And a bust that just got paid $250 million. We already talked about that.
Yep.
But the Jags, I was dead wrong about. They are nowhere near a playoff team. Vikings, you already mentioned. I got them wrong too. And then the Saints, I actually had as my last wild card team.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I was way wrong about the Saints.
What an idiot.
I know. And again, like Jeff said, there's more.
Yeah,
but that's all we're gonna do right now.
Yeah, we don't have all time all day in the show.
We'll do a more in-depth recap when the season ends, or
do we have to?
Maybe when the regular season ends.
Right.
There's Justin Jefferson.
There he is.
And then tell you guys how we did. But I feel like the things we got right, we're doing all right.
Yeah. For the most part, it makes sense. Our ideologies and how we explain things, but. Yeah. Sometimes things happen and unpredictable things happen. Yep.
All right. So we are going. I don't know if I mentioned this. We're skipping overreactions this week.
Yeah.
Did I say that already?
I feel like.
All right. So that we did that in place of overreactions. So we are going to jump into power rankings.
Okay.
So I'll let you go.
All right. So there wasn't much change.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. Lions are still number 1. They kind of broke the curse of whenever I put the Chiefs below number 1. The team above them loses, but they broke the curse. They're still number 1. 2 Chiefs. They haven't played this week, but they'll play tomorrow, Monday night. Number 3, I got the Bills there at number 3, 4 Commanders, and then I put the Eagles there at number 5.
Really?
They've won 4 in a row. I feel like Barkley is kind of been that turnstone that's kind of carried that offense. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith has still been doing their thing with Jalen Hurts. Obviously, you brought up a good argument of, is Jalen Hurts the Jalen Hurts that we know or believe that he is? And so far he's been doing
he looked like it's
pretty well enough. Yeah. But Barkley is definitely the number one prize there in Philadelphia.
Can we just talk? Time out.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Can we just talk about the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen on a football field today?
Yeah, we can.
And that was his reverse hurdle.
Yeah.
He literally hurdled the guy facing the opposite direction. If you're listening to this on Tuesday and you have not seen this yet, you need to stop what you're doing, pull over and YouTube it or look on Twitter. It was absolutely the most athletic play I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He catches a pass out in the flat. He spins off a guy, and literally it seems like while he's spinning, he can see the other guy coming in his peripherals, and he's mid-spin facing the other direction, facing like basically his offensive line, and he hurdles the guy going backwards.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it.
No. I mean, the athletic aspect of it is insane. To me, I was blown away by just even thinking about the move.
Yeah.
Like, how does
your body and your mind
sync up?
Sync
up that way. I'd be like, okay, like for me, I'd be like, all right, should I juke him? Should I power through him? Try to truck him or something? No way with these knees. It'd be like, hey,
my mind would be like, dude, sit the F down.
Yeah. I'm a QB right now. I'm sliding.
Yeah.
I am not hurdling this man.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Absolutely.
I hear you.
Absolutely unbelievable play.
Yep. No, just watch the play.
Yeah, like, seriously.
We can't even.
We're doing it a disservice.
Yeah,
like
basically,
it's incredible.
Yep, I hear you. All right, you're not.
You're all
up.
right.
Yep.
So I only changed one team as well. Mm-hmm. So my top 4 remain the same: Chiefs, Lions, Bills, Commanders. Mm-hmm. I had Green Bay in there originally, so I took them out after the loss to the Lions today, and put in Baltimore. Baltimore Ravens. Yep. So nice win today. They crushed Denver, who I know they have a rookie quarterback, but they have a very good defense.
Yeah.
So I was kind of curious to see if that defense was going to hold up, and they surely did not.
Yeah.
Lamar had another phenomenal game. Derrick Henry had another phenomenal game.
Zay Flowers.
I'll tell you, when they are right, I think they're the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think when they put it all together, they're scary. For what they can do.
Lamar Jackson is definitely that. I mean, it's hard to call him an X factor because he always is present. He's always there balling out. But I feel like he has an extra notch to him that you see during some of these games, and it makes him that MVP twice in his career already. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback. He can run the ball. He can throw the ball a lot better. These past 2 years,
he had another 3, I think, touchoucons today. Touchdown passes.
And Zay Flowers had 2 of them in the first half. And with Derrick Henry there's just like we talked about last week. It just depended on their defense. Can their defense make the stops when they need to? If the opposing team is about to go on like a game tying or game winning drive, can your defense step up and stop the team like they couldn't last week against the Cleveland Browns? So that's going to be the real challenge for Baltimore, I feel like.
Yep. All right. So we will transition over to Fantasy Bolo.
Okay.
Something to look out for going forward. So what do you got for us?
So for me, I got Tony Pollard. Now that Mason Rudolph kind of took over there, I think Will Levis, I don't know if he was out injured or if
he's been out battling a shoulder injury for a while. Yeah.
I feel like they've transitioned more into a run game. I think Tony Pollard had 28 carries today.
Yeah.
28.
Yeah.
And this is 2 weeks in a row where he's had at least 20 carries. So, I mean, Tennessee in general doesn't get into the end zone that often, unfortunately. But Tony Pollard is definitely going to get the opportunities. And he's definitely looking to be more of the focal point there in that Tennessee offense where you're just looking for any sort of fantasy value coming out of that team. Because in that passing game, I don't think you're going to find much. So for me, Tony Pollard is probably going to be the number one, I guess, trade target I'd be looking for. Because obviously you're trading a Tennessee player, it doesn't scream value, but if you can get Tony Pollard for something of, I guess, lower end running back one or higher end RB2 value, I think you're going to be looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep. That's my fantasy.
All right. I like it. So mine is, oh my gosh, he just missed again.
Doink. Yeah.
That's his second missed field goal. This dude from Minnesota, 31 yarder.
That's crazy.
Yikes. Surprising start. Colts up 7-0.
Yeah, I was making sure I didn't have the Vikings in my power rankings just now, so I can knock them out.
Yeah. All right. So mine is. I'm going to talk about Houston.
Okay.
So they've had a rough couple weeks. Obviously, 2 or 3 weeks ago they lost Nico Collins to a hamstring. He's still on IR.
Right.
Last week against the Colts, they lost Stephon Diggs to a torn ACL. So that's their top 2 targets. You could argue. And so, I mean, Houston didn't look great at all as a team on Thursday against the Jets. Short week, obviously had a pretty long flight.
Mm-hmm.
But CJ Stroud was 10 for 31. I think it was.
It was 11 for 30.
Or 11 for 30, something like that. But they had 3 players catch a ball.
3?
3. Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz are the only 3 guys on the team that caught a pass.
Yeah.
So I think that there could be tremendous value for those 3 guys if you have one of them on your team or you're able to go pick one of them up. But also you got to pay attention to the other guys. Mechie, I think is his name.
Mechie.
Hutchinson, 2 guys that I've heard kind of float around as potential backfills for them for Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs. But these 3 guys specifically, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, Dalton Schultz, I really think you need to potentially target. I mean, Tank Dell had by far had the best game of them all. Had 9 catches. I want to say had like 12 or 13 targets. Had a really nice game.
Yeah.
So I think that this wide receiver situation in Houston is something to look out for. Also, I'd be curious just to kind of pay attention. If you're listening to this on Tuesday when it comes out, it'll literally be the day of the trade deadline. Be curious to see if they add a piece to fill the hole of either Stephon Diggs or Nico Collins. Collins, as far as I know, is coming back at some point.
Yeah.
In the next few weeks.
Yeah.
But
it should be
until he comes back. Something to look out for.
Yeah, because CJ Stroud right now is more of a wide receiver thrower right now, and I feel like that's kind of been part of his issue. Is I feel like he's been looking more out wide. Last year, Dalton Schultz was such a bigger part of that offense, and it's been such a disappointment to see Dalton Schultz. I don't know if he's been losing a step, so I don't know if it's more of a CJ Stroud issue or if it's more a Dalton Schultz issue. But CJ Stroud has definitely been looking for his receivers a lot more than his tight end position. So definitely Tank Dell, if you have him, he'd probably be a must start.
Yep.
And if you're feeling a little spicy, looking up whoever's going to be the wide receiver 2 in that Houston Texans offense wouldn't be a bad gamble. I feel like.
Yep. All right. So we will round out the show as we always do with our picks for next week. So I sucked last week. I went 1-2. So if you didn't listen last week, we decided to add a game of the week pick.
Yeah.
So we're both gonna do our lock, our upset, and then we're gonna agree on a game of the week every week, and we're both gonna pick it.
Right.
So last week we decided that the game of the week was Detroit and Green Bay. Didn't really live up to the hype. It was kind of a snoozer a little bit.
Yeah.
But Detroit did win. I picked Detroit. My lock last week, I'm going to try not to go on a little bit of a rant, but my lock was Houston over the Jets. This freaking team can't even lose when they're supposed to. I
couldn't even pull one out for you.
I just hate them. I do. I actually fell asleep during the game.
The Texans and Jets game?
Yeah, I think it's the first time I ever fell asleep during a Jet game.
That's crazy.
Like I'm just wash my hands of them. But they can't even. Garrett Wilson had one of the best catches I've ever seen, so I woke up for that, thankfully. But so the Jets screwed me again. Go figure. And then I had
can't even lose, right?
Can't even lose. You can't even lose when you're supposed to. What are we doing? And then I had the Browns over the Chargers as my upset. So I went 1-2 last week. You went 2-1. Would you remind us what you got correct?
Yeah, I can. Let me flip back over. So I picked the Commanders over the Giants. Obviously, I thought this was going to be pretty much a trap game, but it felt like more of a trap game for the Chicago Bears over in Arizona, against Arizona.
Yeah.
So thankfully, the Commanders pulled that one out. They won by, I believe, 5. I think it was like 27-22. And then my upset pick was the Pats over the Titans. They reached the overtime, but the Patriots couldn't pull it out. Obviously, when I saw Mason Rudolph starting instead of Levis, I was like, uh-oh, I might be in trouble on that one. But yeah, it is what it is. I took a gamble, and it wasn't bad. Yep. And then obviously I picked the Lions.
You've got the Lions as well.
Yep.
All right. So I'm sitting at 8-11. Jeff has got a solid 3-game lead on me at 11-8.
Not a lot.
What do you got for us this week?
All right, so my lock, I got the Chargers over the Titans. So I'm doubling down over the Titans again.
That's a safe one.
Yeah, I mean the Titans can only win so many games, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna roll with that. My upset, I got the Jets over the Cards. So this is we're gonna see if we're gonna double down on the Jets over here.
I got no comment on that.
I know. It's rough because the Jets are traveling to Arizona for this one.
Yeah. They have a long week, right? They're coming off a Thursday game. So they got 10 days to get healthy.
Yep.
So on paper, that's a plus.
Yeah.
Because they're depleted on defense right now.
Yeah. I mean, they looked at least decent against Houston.
In the second half, they looked actually like a professional football team.
Right. So, I mean, maybe it's what Aaron Rodgers said all those years ago. RELAX.
Yeah,
relax.
We'll see.
Relax.
We'll
got him right where we want him.
Win against the Cardinals. Win against the Colts the following week. Get to 5-6 before your bye week. Then we'll talk.
Okay. Well,
until then, I'm done with them.
Well, they're my upset for this week. So we'll see where that goes. And then for the game of the week, we agreed upon the Steelers and the Commanders. A 6-2 team versus 7-2 team. I think that has all the makings of a good game, and I'm actually picking the Steelers over the Commanders on this one.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
To me, it's more like of experience, Mike Tomlin and a rookie QB.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I'm. It was a tough decision, but I'm picking the Steelers.
Okay, I like it. So my lock, I took the Falcons over your Saints. Sorry, bud. But I just think that the Saints are broken. And the Falcons are playing their best football right now. Yeah. So for me, that was an easy one.
Yeah.
My upset, I'm not going to lie. I wrote this down, and then the more I'm thinking about it, I don't love it. But I'm going to roll with it anyways. I took Tampa over San Francisco. Okay. Honestly, what jumped out at me was that San Francisco's on the road, favored by 6.
Yeah.
I think if we were doing this would be an easy one. But obviously, we pick money line, we pick straight up. So
yeah,
I mean, I like Tampa. I think that even with losing their top 2 targets, they have still a really good offense.
Yeah, this will be their third week without both of those top targets. So they'd be definitely more, I guess, in tune with each other at that point.
Yep. So I took Tampa as my upset over San Francisco, and then game of the week, I took the Commanders over the Steelers.
Okay, so it's gonna be.
I'm rolling with Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels. Okay, so someone's making up a game on that one.
We'll see. Yeah.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
You might catch up to me if I get all 3 right or wrong, and you get all 3.
You know what? I think that you're gonna get the Jets game wrong, for sure, and the Steelers game. Okay. So.
All right. Perfect. I like it.
All right.
I like it.
I like this new game of the week thing. It's gonna make it fun.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. Well, that wraps up our show for you. We'll be back and better than ever next week, as always. Hopefully, I have my full voice by then. But hopefully, it wasn't too bad for you. But yeah, we'll catch you guys next week, and hope you have a good one.
Perfect. Later.
Thanks for listening to What Did They Know podcast. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media outlets to see future episode details, and don't forget to send in any questions or topics that you want to see the guys discuss in their weekly episodes to come.